He came back to a quiet American town to sell his grandmother's house. Instead, he walked into a clinic and locked eyes with the woman he abandoned 5 years ago. She rebuilt her life without him. He became the heir to a criminal empire, and when his powerful family decided she was a threat, he had to choose between blood or the only woman he ever loved. Before we go any further, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, is 5 years of silence unforgivable? Hyun-sik pushed open the glass door of the small clinic, the afternoon sun cutting sharp lines across the worn linoleum floor. He'd come to tie up loose ends, sell the house his grandmother left him in this quiet corner of Asheville, North Carolina, then disappear back to Seoul where his life made sense, where everything was controlled, predictable, safe. He didn't expect her. Dr. Natty Omondi stood behind the reception desk, her dark fingers flying across a keyboard, medical files scattered around her like she'd built a fortress of paperwork. She wore simple blue scrubs, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, and for a moment, just a moment, she didn't look up. Then she did. The world stopped. Hyun-sik. His name left her lips like something fragile, something that might break if she said it too loud. He couldn't move, couldn't think. 5 years vanished in the space between one breath and the next, and suddenly he was 23 again, holding her hand under the old oak tree behind his grandmother's house, promising her everything, before he'd broken every single promise. "Nady," he managed, his voice rougher than he intended. I didn't know you were still here." She set down her pen with careful precision, her expression unreadable. "Where else would I be?" The question hit harder than any punch he'd taken in the last 5 years, because she was right. Where else would she be? This town, this clinic, this life. It's what she'd always wanted, what they'd planned together. Before he'd gotten the call from his father, before the family business pulled him back to Korea, before he'd chosen duty over her, before he'd left without saying goodbye. "I'm selling the house," he said, because apparently his brain had decided honesty was the best policy. "My grandmother's place. There are papers to sign." "I know." Nady stood, moving around the desk with that same graceful confidence she'd always had. Mrs. Chen from the real estate office mentioned it. Small town, remember? Everyone knows everything. He remembered. God, he remembered too much. "You became a doctor." It wasn't a question, but she nodded anyway. "Finished medical school 2 years ago. Came back here to open this clinic." She gestured at the modest space around them. Examining rooms visible through open doors, a small waiting area with mismatched chairs, children's drawings taped to the walls. Turns out rural medicine was my calling. Who knew? He knew. He'd always known. They'd talked about it endlessly during those summer months when he'd stayed with his grandmother, when falling in love with Nady had been as easy as breathing. It's good," he said stupidly. "Really good." An elderly woman emerged from one of the examining rooms, clutching a prescription. "Dr. Omondi, thank you so much for fitting me in today. My back feels so much better already." Nady's entire face transformed when she smiled at the woman, all warmth and genuine care. "I'm glad, Mrs. Patterson. Remember what I said about those stretches, okay? And call me if anything changes." After the woman left, silence settled between them like dust. "How long are you staying?" Nady asked finally, her eyes fixed somewhere over his left shoulder. "A week, maybe less, just until the sale goes through." "Then you'll go back?" "Yeah, back to Seoul." She nodded slowly, something flickering across her face too fast for him to read. "Your family business." "Right." The way she said, "family business," made it clear she knew exactly what that meant. Not the legitimate import-export company his father claimed to run, but the other thing. The dangerous thing. The thing that had made leaving her feel like the only option. "Nady, don't." She held up one hand, stopping him mid-sentence. "It's been 5 years, Hyun-sik. Whatever you think you need to say, I don't need to hear it." But her eyes told a different story. They always had. A young boy burst through the clinic door, tears streaming down his face, his mother rushing in behind him. "Dr. Omondi, Jacob fell off his bike and his arm looks really bad." Professional mode activated instantly. Nady was already moving, guiding them toward an examining room, asking calm questions about what happened. She glanced back at Hyun-sik just once. "You should go. I have patience." He should. He really should. Instead, he found himself sitting in one of those mismatched chairs, watching through the open door as she examined the boys, arm with gentle efficiency, explaining everything in simple words that calmed both the child and his worried mother. She was magnificent, and he'd walked away from this, from her. What kind of fool was he? An hour later, after the boy left with a splint and instructions to see an orthopedic specialist in Greenville, Nady finally acknowledged Hyun-sik's presence again. "You're still here." "Apparently." She leaned against the doorframe, exhaustion evident in the set of her shoulders. "Why?" "Good question." He wished he had a good answer. "I saw your mother yesterday," she said when he didn't respond. "At the grocery store." His stomach dropped. "My mother?" "Well, your ex-fiancé's mother, technically. Mrs. Park. She's visiting from New York, staying with her daughter." Nady's expression remained neutral, but something sharp glinted in her eyes. "Funny how you failed to mention getting engaged." Oh, that's not... It's complicated." "I'm sure it is." She pushed off from the doorframe, started gathering her files. "Listen, Hyun-sik, whatever you're doing here, whatever closure you think you need, I can't give it to you. I have a life now, a good life, and dredging up the past isn't part of my plan. What if I don't want closure?" The words surprised them both. Nady stared at him, really looked at him for the first time since he'd walked in. He watched her taking in the expensive suit he wore, the scar above his left eyebrow that hadn't been there 5 years ago, the way he held himself differently now. Harder, more guarded. "Then what do you want?" she asked quietly. He didn't know. Or maybe he did, and he was just too scared to say it out loud. Before he could figure out which, the clinic door opened again. A woman walked in. Late 30s, perfectly styled hair, designer clothes that screamed money and status. She looked wildly out of place in this small-town clinic, and she walked straight to Hyun-sik like she owned him. "There you are." Her voice carried the crisp accent of someone who'd spent too long in Manhattan. "I've been looking everywhere. Your phone is off." Nady's expression shuddered completely. "I'll just give you some privacy." "No, wait," Hyun-sik started, but the other woman was already talking. "Darling, we need to discuss the house sale. Mother thinks we should keep the property as an investment, maybe rent it out instead of selling, and I tend to agree with her. This area is developing quite nicely." "We." She'd said we. Hyun-sik saw the exact moment Nady made her assumptions, saw the walls slam down behind her eyes. "Nady, this is Mi-sun Park," he said quickly, desperately. It's complicated." "No, it's not," Mi-sun said with a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We're engaged. Well, we will be, officially, once his father approves the merger. Our families have been planning this for years." The merger. Of course. Because in his world, even marriages were business transactions. Nady's face revealed nothing, but her voice was ice. "Congratulations. If you'll excuse me, I have paperwork to finish." "Nady, good night, Hyun-sik." The dismissal was absolute. Mi-sun watched Nady disappear into her office with obvious curiosity. Who was that? She seems upset. An old friend. Well, she's very pretty, I suppose, in an exotic sort of way. The casual racism in Mi-sun's tone made his skin crawl. "Anyway, about the house. Mother really does think I'm selling it." His voice came out harder than intended. "The decision is made." Mi-sun's perfectly painted lips pressed into a thin line. "Your father won't be pleased." "My father can deal with it." Something dangerous flickered in her eyes. You've been different since we arrived in this little town. Distracted. I hope you're not having second thoughts about our arrangement. Arrangement. That's all it was. All it had ever been. I'll meet you back at the hotel, he said, not answering her question. I need to take care of something first. He didn't wait for her response, just walked straight to Natty's office and pushed open the door without knocking. She sat at her desk, staring at her computer screen, but he could tell she wasn't actually seeing it. She's not my fiancée, he said, but she will be. Natty didn't look up. She said so herself, once your father approves the merger, whatever that means. It means our families do business together. It means my father thinks combining our organizations will make both of them stronger. It means I have responsibilities. Right, responsibilities. Finally, she looked at him, and the pain in her eyes gutted him. Is that what I was 5 years ago? A responsibility you couldn't afford? No, God, no. You were everything. You were the only real thing in my entire life. And yet you left, without a word, without a phone call, without any explanation. Her voice cracked slightly, the first sign of real emotion breaking through. I waited, Hyun-sik, for months. I kept thinking maybe you'd call, maybe you'd write, but you just disappeared. The guilt he'd been carrying for 5 years pressed down on him like physical weight. I thought it was better that way. Cleaner. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. For who? Because it sure as hell wasn't cleaner for me. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Your apology is 5 years too late. She stood, began organizing papers with sharp, angry movements. And it doesn't change anything. You're still leaving. You're still going back to Seoul, to your responsibilities, to your merger. Nothing has changed. Everything had changed. Couldn't she see that? But maybe she was right. Maybe nothing had changed where it mattered. He turned to leave, got as far as the door before her voice stopped him. Did you love me? She asked softly. Back then, did you actually love me, or was I just a nice distraction during your summer vacation? He looked back at her. This brilliant, beautiful woman who'd stolen his heart when they were barely more than kids, who'd shown him what real meant in a world built on lies and shadows. I loved you, he said simply. I never stopped. Then he left before she could respond, before he could see whether his words meant anything at all. Outside, the North Carolina evening had turned cool. Mi-sun waited by his rental car, tapping her foot impatiently. Are we ready to go now? She asked pointedly. Yeah, we're ready. But as he drove away from the clinic, his eyes found the rearview mirror, found the small building growing smaller behind them, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was making the same mistake twice. Only this time, he knew exactly what he was losing. The next morning arrived too bright, too cheerful, mocking the turmoil churning inside Hyun-sik's chest. He'd barely slept, Mi-sun's words about keeping the house playing on repeat alongside the devastation in Natty's eyes. He needed coffee, and maybe some answers about why coming back here felt like stepping into quicksand. The Morning Brew Cafe sat on Main Street, unchanged from 5 years ago, except for a fresh coat of paint. Hyun-sik pushed through the door, the bell chiming overhead, and nearly collided with someone carrying 3 coffees in a precarious stack. Watch it! The young woman juggled the cups expertly, shooting him an annoyed glare. Then her expression shifted to recognition. Wait, you're Hyun-sik, right? Mrs. Kim's grandson? He nodded warily. I'm Tendai Mutasa. I work at Dr. Amandi's clinic. She studied him with open curiosity, her Ugandan accent soft but distinct. She mentioned you might be around. Of course she had. How is she? He asked before he could stop himself. Tendai's eyes narrowed slightly. She's fine. She's always fine. She's also my best friend, so I'm required by law to be suspicious of you. Fair enough. Are you the reason she cried herself to sleep for 6 months straight 5 years ago? Direct. He appreciated that. Yeah, probably. Then I officially don't like you. But she smiled slightly when she said it. Want some advice anyway? Do I have a choice? Nope. Here it is. Whatever you're planning, whatever grand gesture you think will fix things, it won't. Nadi's not the same girl you left behind. She's stronger now, more careful with her heart. So if you're just here to mess with her head before you disappear again, do everyone a favor and stay away. And if I'm not? Tendai considered this. Then you better be prepared to fight, because life didn't make things easy for her after you left, and she clawed her way to where she is now. She's not giving that up for anyone, not even for someone she used to love. Used to, past tense. The words stung more than they should. Got it, he managed. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to deliver these before they get cold. She paused at the door. Oh, and your fiancé? The one staying at the Riverside Hotel? She came by the clinic yesterday evening asking questions about Nady, trying to figure out who she was to you. Thought you should know. Then she was gone, leaving Hyun-sik standing in the cafe feeling like he'd just been politely eviscerated. He ordered his coffee and found a corner table, trying to process everything. Mi-sun investigating Natty was problematic. Very problematic. His phone buzzed. 3 messages from his father's right-hand man, Cho. The ones he'd been ignoring since yesterday. Boss wants updates on the house sale. The Park family is asking questions. Call me. Urgent. He deleted them all. The cafe door opened again, and this time an older woman entered. Late 50s. Elegant in that effortless way some women had. She spotted him immediately, her face lighting up with surprised recognition. Hyun-sik? Oh my goodness, it is you! She crossed the cafe in quick steps, her smile genuine and warm. I'm Yoon Seo, Dr. Amandi's mentor. I run the community health program she's part of. He stood automatically, shaking her offered hand. It's nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. The way she said it made clear she knew the whole story. Nady's talked about her time with your grandmother often. You meant a lot to her. Meant. More past tense. She's done incredible work here, Yoon Seo continued, sliding into the seat across from him uninvited. The clinic serves 3 counties now. She's brought in funding, partnered with regional hospitals, created outreach programs for underserved communities. And she did it all herself. No family support, no connections, just pure determination and brilliance. The pride in her voice was unmistakable. No family support, he repeated, catching on that detail. Yoon Seo's expression grew somber. Her parents, they weren't happy about her staying in America, especially not in such a small town. They wanted her back in Burundi, wanted her to practice medicine there or marry someone they approved of. When she refused, well, let's just say they made their disappointment clear. She hasn't spoken to them in 3 years. The information hit him like a physical blow. Nady's family had been everything to her. The idea that she'd sacrifice that relationship to stay here, to build this life. I didn't know, he said quietly. Of course you didn't. She doesn't talk about it. Yoon Seo sipped her tea thoughtfully. But I'm telling you because I think you should understand what's at stake. Nady built this life from nothing. She fought for every single piece of it. And now you're back, and I can see it in her eyes. All that old pain coming back up. I don't want to hurt her. Then don't. Simple words, complicated meaning. Yoon Seo stood to leave, then paused. There's a community fundraiser tonight at the rec center. For the clinic. Nady will be there. Maybe you should be too. I don't think she wants to see me. Probably not. But sometimes what we want and what we need are 2 different things. She smiled kindly. Think about it. After she left, Hyun-sik sat alone with his coffee and his thoughts. His phone buzzed again. Mi-sun this time. Mother insists we have dinner tonight. The restaurant by the river at 7. Of course she did. He was about to respond when another message came through, this one from a number he didn't recognize. This is Tendai, Natty's friend. That offer for advice? I changed my mind. Meet me at the park in 20 minutes. Come alone." Curious, he paid for his coffee and headed to the small park at the edge of town. Tendai sat on a bench near the playground, watching kids on the swings. "You came," she said when he approached. "You said come alone. Am I in danger?" "Only if you break her heart again." But she smiled slightly. "Sit. We need to talk." He sat. "Look, I was harsh earlier," Tendai began, her eyes still on the playground. "But that's because I've seen what Nati went through. Not just when you left, but after. The isolation, the self-doubt, the way she questioned everything about herself. And then her family turned their backs on her, and I watched her almost break. Almost. But she didn't. She's strong. I know she is. Do you? Because strong people, they're often the loneliest. They're so busy being strong for everyone else that they forget they're allowed to need someone too." Tendai finally looked at him. "Nati needs someone. She won't admit it. Probably won't even acknowledge it to herself. But she does. The question is, are you that someone? Or are you just here to remind her of what she lost?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I came here to sell a house. That's it. But seeing her again, it's like the last 5 years just vanished. For you, maybe. But she lived those 5 years, every difficult day of them. So what do I do?" Tendai stood, preparing to leave. "You figure out what you really want, not what your family wants, not what's expected of you, not what's easiest, what you want. And then you decide if you're brave enough to fight for it. Because if you're not, if you're just going to leave again when things get hard, then please, please, just go now. Let her heal properly this time." She walked away, leaving him alone with playground sounds and impossible choices. That evening, Hyun-sik found himself standing outside the rec center, watching through the windows as the fundraiser unfolded inside. Lights twinkled from makeshift decorations, people mingled and laughed, and somewhere in that crowd was Nati. He should go back to the hotel, meet Mi-sun and her mother for that dinner, do what was expected. Instead, he walked inside. The room buzzed with energy. Local businesses had donated items for a silent auction, tables groaned under potluck dishes, and a small band played bluegrass in the corner. It was charming and wholesome, and everything his life and soul wasn't. He spotted Nati immediately. She stood near a table of donated medical supplies, explaining something to an elderly couple with animated gestures, her entire face alive with passion for her work. She wore a simple green dress that brought out the warmth in her dark skin, her hair loose around her shoulders for once. She looked beautiful. And then she saw him. Her expression flickered. Surprise. Then something that might have been pleasure before she shut it down, rebuilding those walls he'd seen go up yesterday. He crossed the room slowly, giving her time to run if she wanted to. She didn't run. "You came," she said when he reached her. "Yoon Seo mentioned it. Thought I should support the clinic." "Right. Support the clinic." She didn't sound convinced. "Well, feel free to bid on auction items. We're trying to raise money for a new portable ultrasound machine." Awkward silence stretched between them while the party continued around them, oblivious to their tension. "Nati, Dr. Amandi." A teenage girl rushed over, practically vibrating with excitement. "I got into the pre-med program, the one you wrote me a recommendation for. I just found out today." Nadi's face transformed instantly, all genuine joy and pride. "Kioma, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." They hugged, and Hyun-sik watched the easy affection between them, the way Nati had clearly mentored this young woman, changed her life, probably. After Kioma bounced away to tell others her good news, Nadi's smile faded slightly. "She wants to be a surgeon," she said quietly. "Smartest kid I've ever met. She's going to do amazing things. Because of you. Because of herself. I just helped show her the path." "You're good at that. Helping people." She finally looked at him directly. "Is that what you need, Hyun-sik? Help? Because I'm not sure I can help you with whatever complicated situation you're in. I don't need help. I wanted to see you, talk to you, without interruptions or fiancés showing up. About that. Is she really your fiancé? It's complicated. You keep saying that, but complicated isn't an answer, it's an excuse. He wanted to argue, but she was right. My family, they have expectations, he started carefully. The business I'm in, it requires alliances, partnerships. Misun's family and mine, we've been connected for years, and my father, he thinks combining our organizations through marriage is the smart move. But what do you think? I think. He hesitated, choosing words carefully. I think duty and desire rarely align. That sounds like a no. It is a no. I don't love her. I don't even really like her most of the time. Then why? Because walking away means consequences. For me, for my family, for people who depend on me. It's not as simple as just saying no. Nady studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. You know what the sad thing is? 5 years ago, I would have believed that. I would have accepted that your responsibilities were too important, that you had no choice. But I've learned something since then. We always have choices. They might be hard choices, scary choices, choices with consequences we don't like, but we have them. And the choices we make show people what we really value. Nady, what do you value, Hyun-sik? Really? Before he could answer, someone tapped a microphone, drawing everyone's attention to the small stage. If I could have everyone's attention, Yoon Seo said with a warm smile, I'd like to say a few words about why we're all here tonight. The speech focused on Nady's accomplishments, the clinic's impact, the community's support. And through it all, Hyun-sik watched Nady's face. The humility, the gratitude, the genuine love she had for this place and these people. She'd found her home, her purpose. What had he found in Seoul? Power, maybe. Respect, born of fear. A life built on secrets and shadows. When the speech ended and applause filled the room, Nady slipped away toward the back exit. Hyun-sik followed, finding her standing outside in the cool evening air, arms wrapped around herself. You okay? He asked softly. Sometimes it's overwhelming, she admitted. All this support. These people believe in me, and sometimes I wonder if I deserve it. You deserve it. She turned to face him, moonlight catching the tears she refused to let fall. Do you know what the worst part was? After you left? He waited, afraid of the answer. It wasn't the loneliness, it wasn't even the heartbreak, though that was bad enough. It was realizing that I'd built my entire future around someone who could just disappear. I'd planned my life around US, and when there was no more US, I had to figure out who I was without you. And it was hard, so hard. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't change anything. You're still leaving, I'm still staying. Nothing has changed. What if something has changed? The words came out before he could stop them. What if I don't want to leave? She laughed, but it sounded broken. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up after 5 years, say pretty words, and expect everything to just fall back into place. I'm not expecting that. Then what are you expecting? Honestly? He had no idea. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Mi's son, probably, calling about the dinner he was missing. Nady heard it too, saw him glance at his phone. You should go, she said quietly. Your responsibilities are calling. Nady! Good night, Hyun-sik. She walked back inside, leaving him alone in the darkness, his phone still buzzing insistently. He pulled it out. 5 missed calls from Mi's son, 3 from her mother, and 1 message from Cho that made his blood run cold. Your father knows about the girl. He's not happy. Hyun-sik didn't sleep that night. He sat in his hotel room, staring at his phone, weighing options that all felt like losing. His father knew about Nady, which meant someone had been watching, reporting back. Mi's son, probably. Or her mother. They'd waste no time using this information against him. At 6 a.m., another message arrived from Cho. Your father wants to talk. Today. Video call at noon your time. Don't miss it. Perfect. He spent the morning driving aimlessly through town, past the old oak tree where he'd carved their initials, past his grandmother's house with its for sale sign, past the clinic that Nady had built from nothing. Everything looked the same, yet everything had changed. At noon exactly, his phone rang. His father's face filled the screen. Hard eyes, stern expression, the look of a man who'd built an empire through ruthlessness and control. "Appa," Hyun-sik greeted carefully, "I hear you're making problems." No preamble, straight to business. That was his father's way. "I'm handling the house sale." "That's not what I'm talking about. Mrs. Park called me last night, said you've been distracted, spending time with some woman from your past." "Of course she had. It's nothing. Just someone I knew when I was younger." "Nothing?" His father's eyes narrowed. "Then why does Mrs. Park seem to think this woman is a threat to the arrangement with me, son?" "Because Mrs. Park sees threats everywhere. Don't be flippant with me, boy. This marriage is important. The Park family controls shipping routes we need, connections we don't have. You will go through with this." Hyun-sik felt his jaw tighten. "And if I don't want to?" The silence that followed was deadly. "You don't have that luxury," his father said finally, his voice cold. "You made your choice 5 years ago when you came back to Seoul, when you took your place in this family. You don't get to undo that now because some old flame makes you nostalgic." "She's not some old flame. Then what is she?" Good question. What was Nady to him? The girl he'd loved? The woman he'd abandoned? The future he'd given up? Maybe she was all of those things. "I need more time," Hyun-sik said carefully. "Time for what? To make the wrong choice?" His father leaned closer to the camera. "Listen to me carefully. You will finalize the house sale. You will return to Seoul, and you will marry Mi-sun Park. This is not a discussion." "And if I refuse?" His father's smile was sharp, dangerous. "Then you'll learn exactly what happens to people who disappoint me, even family, especially family." The call ended. Hyun-sik sat staring at the blank screen, his father's threat echoing in his mind. He'd seen what happened to people who crossed his father, the businesses destroyed, the lives ruined, the people who simply disappeared. Could he protect Nady from that? Could he protect himself? His phone buzzed again. This time, a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Meet me at Fletcher Park. 1 hour. Come alone." Tendai. What now? He arrived at the park to find Tendai pacing near the fountain, her expression worried. "What's wrong?" he asked. Immediately. Nady's parents called her this morning. Tendai's words came fast, urgent. Someone contacted them. Told them their daughter was involved with a criminal, that she was jeopardizing her safety and career. They're threatening to come here to drag her back to Burundi if necessary. His stomach dropped. Someone told them about you, about your family business, about everything. Tendai's eyes blazed with anger. Was it your fiancé? Because if she's trying to sabotage Nady, I don't know. Maybe. Probably. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and guilt warring inside him. Is Nady okay? Does she look okay? Tendai pointed across the park. Nady sat on a bench near the playground, shoulders hunched, phone pressed to her ear. Even from a distance, he could see the tension in her body, the way her free hand gripped the bench, like she needed something solid to hold on to. Her parents are saying terrible things, Tendai continued quietly, telling her she's throwing away her life, her reputation, her family's honor, all because of you. The guilt intensified. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, and now she's paying the price for your, what did you call it, complications? Before he could respond, Nady ended her call and spotted them. Her face was composed, but her eyes held devastation. She walked over slowly, deliberately, like someone approaching a cliff edge. You told them, she said to Hyun-sik. Not a question, an accusation. What? No, I would never. Then who did? Because somehow my parents know exactly who you are, what your family does, why I should stay far away from you. Someone told them. Someone who wanted to make sure I understood what a mistake it would be to... She couldn't finish the sentence. It was probably Mi-sun or her mother, he admitted. They see you as a threat to their plans. A threat. Nady laughed bitterly. I'm not trying to steal you away. I'm not trying to destroy their precious merger. I'm just trying to live my life. I know that. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, your life and my life, they can't exist in the same space. Your world is dangerous and complicated and dark, and mine is... It's simple. It's good. And I can't let your darkness destroy what I've built. The words cut deeper than any knife. Nady, please. My parents gave me an ultimatum, she continued, her voice shaking slightly. End any involvement with you, or they'll disown me completely. No contact, no support, no family, just gone. Tendai gasped softly. They can't do that. They can. They will. Nady looked at Hyun-sik with eyes full of pain and something that looked like goodbye. So I'm ending this. Whatever this is, I'm done. You don't mean that. I do. I have to. Because I've already lost my family once by choosing this life over theirs. I can't lose everything I've built because of someone who's going to leave anyway. The truth of her words hit him like a physical blow. Because she was right. He was going to leave. His father had made that clear. The expectations, the responsibilities, the threats. They were all designed to pull him back to Seoul, back to his duty, unless he chose differently. What if I stayed? He asked quietly. Both women stared at him. What if I didn't go back to Seoul? What if I chose this? You? This life? Nady's expression shifted through several emotions. Hope, fear, disbelief. You can't, she whispered. Your family. My family doesn't own me. Doesn't it? You said yourself. Walking away has consequences. Are you really ready to face those? To give up everything you've built? Was he? 5 years ago, he'd chosen duty over love. He'd convinced himself it was the right choice, the necessary choice. But what had it gotten him? A life of shadows and violence, an arranged marriage to someone he didn't love, a future that looked exactly like his, father's cold, controlled existence. Was that really what he wanted? I don't have all the answers, he admitted, but I know that walking away from you 5 years ago was the biggest mistake I've ever made, and I know that if I do it again, if I leave again, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Pretty words, Nady said, but her voice wavered. But words don't change reality. Your father threatened you. Your fiancé's family is threatening me through my parents. And even if we wanted to try, what would that look like? You hiding here in North Carolina while your family hunts you down? Me losing my clinic, my reputation, my life because of who you are? She was right. Of course she was right. But maybe... What if there was a way out? He said slowly, an idea forming. What if I could end my father's hold on me, dissolve the engagement, make it so you'd be safe from any retaliation? Is that even possible? Tendai asked skeptically. I don't know, maybe. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts until he found the one he needed. There's someone, an old friend who works in international law enforcement. He's been trying to get information on my father's organization for years. If I gave him what he needed, you'd be turning on your own family, Nady finished, horror evident in her voice. They're not family, not really. They're criminals who happen to share my blood. There's a difference. Hyun-sik, that's huge. That's dangerous. Your father would... I know what my father would do. But I also know I can't keep living this life, not if it means losing you again. Silence fell between them, heavy with possibility and fear. Finally, Nady spoke. I need time to think, to process all of this. You're talking about blowing up your entire life, and I can't be the reason you do that unless I'm sure we have a real chance. We do. I know we do. You don't know that. We're not the same people we were 5 years ago. We've changed, grown. Maybe we've grown too far apart. Or maybe we've grown into people who can actually make this work. She smiled sadly. Your optimism it's sweet. But I need more than optimism. I need proof that this isn't just nostalgia or guilt or some crisis-driven impulse because you're being forced into a marriage you don't want. Fair points, all of them. So what do we do? He asked. You figure out what you really want. Not in the abstract, not in theory. Really. What life you want to live. And I'll do the same. We'll give ourselves 3 days. Then we'll talk again, honestly. And we'll decide if there's actually a path forward or if we're just chasing ghosts. 3 days. 72 hours to figure out the rest of his life. Okay, he agreed. 3 days. Natty nodded, then turned to leave, but she paused, looked back at him with something soft in her eyes. For what it's worth, I'm glad you came back. Even if it's complicated, even if it hurts, I'm glad I got to see you again, got to see the man you've become. Then she was gone, Tendai trailing behind her with one last warning look at Hyun-sik. He stood alone in the park, phone in hand, staring at the contact information for Agent Park. No relation to Mi-sun's family, thankfully. A man who'd offered him a way out years ago, a chance to turn state's evidence and bring down his father's organization. Hyun-sik had refused then, too scared of the consequences, too bound by duty. But maybe it was time to be brave. He pressed call. The next 3 days felt like living in slow motion and fast forward simultaneously. Hyun-sik met with Agent Park twice. First in a coffee shop 2 towns over, then in a secure location that reminded him uncomfortably of interrogation rooms in bad movies. You understand what you're offering? Agent Park asked, his recorder sitting between them on the table. Full cooperation, financial records, shipping manifests, names of contacts in both Korea and the States. Everything. I understand. And you know the risks. Your father, he's not someone who forgives betrayal. You'll need protection. Witness protection, probably. A new identity, new life. Everything changes. That's what Hyun-sik was counting on. What about people connected to me? He asked. Can you guarantee their safety? Depends on who they are and how close the connection. There's a woman, Dr. Nadia Mondi. She runs a clinic in Asheville. My father knows about her, and if I do this, if I testify, he might try to hurt her to get to me. Agent Park made a note. We can provide protection, surveillance, maybe relocation if necessary. But you need to understand, this isn't a quick process. Building a case against your father could take months. You'd be in limbo that entire time. Months. Could he ask Nady to wait months? To put her life on hold while he dismantled his father's empire? I need to think about it, Hyun-sik said finally. Don't think too long. My offer has an expiration date, and from what I hear, your wedding date is approaching fast. Right. The wedding. Hyun-sik left the meeting feeling like he'd swallowed stones. This was the path forward, the only path that would truly free him. But it required sacrifice, danger, time. Would it be enough for Nady? Day 2 brought an unexpected visitor to his hotel. He opened the door to find Yoon Seo standing there, holding a covered dish. May I come in? She asked politely. He stepped aside, curious. I brought you some kimchi jjigae, she said, setting the dish on the small table. Figured you might be missing home cooking. The gesture surprised him. Thank you, but I suspect you didn't come just to bring me food. Smart boy. She sat down, gestured for him to do the same. I came to tell you a story about a young woman who came to this country with nothing but a medical degree and a dream, who faced racism, isolation, and constant doubt from people who didn't believe she belonged here, who almost gave up a dozen times but didn't because she'd found something worth fighting for. Nady, he said quietly. Nady. And do you know what that thing was? What kept her going? He shook his head. You. Or rather, the memory of you. The summers you spent together, the plans you made, the future you promised. Even after you left, even when she was angry and hurt, that memory kept her grounded, reminded her what love could look like, what it felt like to be seen by someone. The guilt was crushing. I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad, Yoon-seo continued gently. I'm telling you because you need to understand what you mean to her. You're not just some old boyfriend. You're woven into her story, into who she became. Then why is she pushing me away? Because she's scared. Terrified, actually. She built a life from ashes, and now you're back, and everything feels unstable again. She's afraid that if she lets you back in, you'll destroy her all over again. I won't. Can you promise that? Really promise it? Because from where I'm sitting, you're still caught between two worlds. Your father's expectations and your own desires. And until you choose, really choose, you're a risk she can't afford. The words echoed Nady's own concerns. I'm working on it, he said. I'm trying to find a way to make this work. Yoon-seo studied him carefully. Are you? Or are you just looking for the easiest way? Because if you really want Nady, if you really want this life, you have to be willing to burn down everything else. No half measures, no backup plans, all in. That's asking a lot. Love does ask a lot. The question is she worth it? After Yoon-seo left, Hyun-sik sat alone with his cooling stew and his tangled thoughts. All in. No backup plans. Complete commitment. Could he do that? Day 3 arrived with a complication. Mi-sun appeared at his hotel room door at 8 a.m., perfectly styled as always, her smile sharp as glass. We need to talk, she announced, pushing past him into the room. Make yourself at home, he muttered, closing the door. I'm calling off the engagement, she said without preamble. He blinked. What? You heard me. I'm done. This whole arrangement was my parents' idea anyway, not mine. And watching you pine after that clinic doctor for the past few days, it's pathetic. I deserve better than someone who's in love with someone else. Relief flooded through him. Mi-sun, Don't thank me yet. There are conditions. She sat on his bed like she owned it. First, you announced that the decision to end the engagement was mutual. I won't be seen as the rejected party. Second, you convince your father that this is best for both families. I don't need him making problems for my parents' business out of spite. Done. What else? That's it, actually. I'm not as cruel as you probably think I am. She studied her perfectly manicured nails. For what it's worth. She seems nice. Your doctor. Very genuine. Not your father's type at all, which probably means she's exactly your type. He didn't know what to say to that. Mi-sun stood to leave, paused at the door. Fair warning. My mother won't accept this easily. She's already called your father twice this morning, probably trying to figure out how to force you back in line. So whatever you're planning with your clinic doctor, you better do it fast. After she left, Hyun-sik immediately called his father. The conversation went about as well as expected. You're making a mistake, his father thundered. The Park family doesn't want this marriage either. Mi-sun called it off herself. Because you've been carrying on with that woman. Do you think I'm stupid? I know what you're doing, and I'm telling you right now, it ends. Today. You end whatever this is, you repair things with the Parks, and you come home. No. Silence. Then dangerously quiet. What did you say? I said, no, I'm not coming back to Seoul. I'm not fixing things with the Parks. I'm done living the life you planned for me. You ungrateful. I'm also cooperating with the FBI. The words came out steady, certain. I've given them everything. Financial records, contact names, shipping routes, everything they need to dismantle your organization. The silence that followed was absolute. When his father finally spoke, his voice was ice. "You're a dead man. You understand that? You've signed your own death warrant." "Maybe, but at least I'll die free." He hung up. His hands shook slightly as he set down the phone. He'd done it. Actually done it. Burned every bridge, severed every tie to his father's world. No going back now. He drove to the clinic, his heart hammering. Nadie stood outside talking to an elderly patient, helping them to their car. She looked up as he parked, her expression wary. "We said 3 days," she called out. "It's only been—" "I know, but I couldn't wait." He crossed. To her, stopping a respectful distance away, "I called off the engagement, turned in my father to the FBI, burned down my entire life in Seoul. I'm all in, Nadie. No backup plans, no escape routes. Just you, if you'll have me." She stared at him, shock evident on her face. "You... what?" "I chose you. I chose this. Whatever life we can build together, that's what I want." "Hyun-sik, that's insane. You just destroyed your relationship with your family." "They were never really family. Not the way that matters. But you'll need witness protection, a new identity. You'll have to hide probably for years." "I know." "And you're okay with that? With giving up everything?" He stepped closer, close enough to see the tears gathering in her eyes. "I already gave up everything that mattered 5 years ago. I'm not making that mistake again." "This is crazy." "Maybe, probably, but still, it's what I want, what I need. You're what I need." Nadie's composure cracked, tears finally spilling over. "I'm so scared. What if we try this and it doesn't work? What if you end up resenting me for everything you gave up? Then we'll deal with it, together." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand, the first real contact they'd had since he'd returned. "I'm not promising it'll be easy. It'll probably be really hard. But I'm promising I won't leave. I won't disappear. I'll be here, fighting for us, every single day." "You're an idiot," she said through her tears. "Yeah, probably. A beautiful idiot." "I'll take it." She laughed, watery and broken and real. Then she pulled him closer, wrapping her arms around him in a hug that felt like coming home. 3 months, she whispered against his chest. "Give me 3 months to see if this is real, to make sure we're not just chasing ghosts." 3 months. I can do 3 months. She pulled back slightly, looking up at him with those beautiful eyes he'd never forgotten. "And if it works, if we make it 3 months, then we figure out the rest. Together. Together," she repeated softly. He cupped her face gently, his thumb wiping away her tears, then slowly, giving her every chance to stop him. He leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, a promise, a beginning. When he pulled back, she was smiling. "You need to call Agent Park," she said practically. "Figure out the protection details. And I need to tell Tendai she can stop threatening to murder you." She threatened to murder me? Several times. Very creatively. Good. I'd expect nothing less from your best friend. They stood there in the clinic parking lot, hands intertwined, facing an uncertain future that somehow felt less scary because they were facing it together. Hyun-sik's phone buzzed. Agent Park, probably. Reality calling. But for just this moment, he ignored it. For just this moment, he let himself exist in the space between what was and what could be, with the woman he loved in the town he'd never forgotten, building something new from the ashes of everything he'd left behind. "I love you," he said quietly. "I never stopped. Not for a single day." Nadie's smile grew. "I love you too. Even when I hated you, I loved you." "That's complicated." "Yeah, but still." She squeezed his hand. "Come on, we have a lot of planning to do. And Tendai made me promise to bring you by so she could give you her official approval speech." "There's a speech?" "Oh, there's definitely a speech. Possibly with visual aids." He laughed, real and genuine, for what felt like the first time in 5 years. They walked into the clinic together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next, together. So that's the whole story, everyone. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And hey, drop a comment below telling me which part got you the most emotional because I'm curious what you all thought. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.